Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business, the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready? Welcome back, listeners, to another episode. Today, we're tackling a big topic with our guest, Katie. It's going to be about scaling your operations for success and demystifying the process to utilize digital tools and efficient operations. So I hope you're ready to learn a lot of things and implement new processes into your operations. We're your hosts, Dana and Sarah, and we're going to take a few minutes to let Katie introduce herself.
Hi, thank you for having me. I am Katie. I'm the founder and CEO of River City Virtual Assistants. I founded River City Virtual Assistants in 2020 during the pandemic. It was actually a little bit of a pivot. I was in a corporate career. I was running another small business, a yoga studio. I completely burnt out. In 2019, I left my career. And then in 2020, had to close the yoga studio. And in an effort to continue paying my mortgage and my rent on my studio space, I turned to freelancing as a virtual assistant. And it kind of took off from there. I got busy faster than I thought I would. And I started recruiting friends of mine that had left the workforce or were not returning because of childcare. So other caretakers, other mothers, other parents. And we just grew. We're now a team of 20,
Awesome.
which is a lot of growth in 4 years. This year, we've built out a leadership team. By this year, I guess I mean 2023 because we're in 2024 now. And we really focus on building sustainable scaling systems with always a focus on exit. Although we don't ever plan to exit, I love what I do. I'd love to stay here forever, but just the knowledge that life is going to change and it's going to take us on different paths. So if things do need to be handed off to someone, we want to make sure it's a clean transition.
I like that you started by hiring your friends and then kind of grew from there. I feel like with many entrepreneurs, myself included, hiring friends can create that gray area and nervousness of, well, you're my friend, so I don't want to reprimand you for missing a task or deadline. But at the same time, boundaries have to be in place. So that's interesting how you started that.
Yeah, and can be scary. And the very first woman who started working with me, Elisa, she had worked as an instructor at my yoga studio. So I knew her work ethic. The next couple of girls or women that came on with me, I had worked with them in bars and restaurants in college. So I knew their work ethic, right? Like anybody who can pull a double shift with a smile on their face is going to be good on my team.
Right.
Fair enough.
And then I really firmly believe like we're all adults here. And if you kind of say that to someone, if they're slipping a little and you say, look, like you're slipping, maybe there's something going on in your life and that's fine. Like we all have outside things and we're going to give you space for that. Do you need space? And because of the kind of flexible nature of our work, we can say, look, we can scale back your client hours if that's what you need right now, but you do still need to meet these metrics and you're an adult. And when you give it to people like that, most people want to succeed. Most people want to do well at what they do. You just have to give them the space to do that. And I think giving people space to handle their personal lives allows them to show up better as employees.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's where the communication comes into play, because if you're not doing your job the way you're supposed to be doing it, you probably should communicate that, hey, like this is what's going on. Because if you don't, then your manager, boss, whoever's in leadership is going to like think differently. So communicate that.
Yeah. And this kind of sounds silly, but I like to say that we're like a trauma-informed workplace, right? Like I came from a really toxic work environment and I wasn't in a position where I could go to my boss and say, these things are going on in life. If I did that, it was turned around and kind of backfired, right? I was then shamed for the fact that I had these things going on with my family and I'm struggling to show up as my best self.
Mm-hmm.
So we've tried to create a space where we just understand that people have those things going on. And we understand that they're afraid to tell us because they've come from toxic work environments where they're not comfortable talking about it. So there's a lot of just kind of reminding people like, hey, you don't have to tell us the details. You can just say, I've got something going on and I need a little bit of space. And we're going to allow you to have that as long as you take your time, do what you need to do, and then come back and let's get back to work when you're ready.
I love that. Like, I advocate so much for open door policy, like all the time.
That's Sarah's soapbox.
It's got to be an open door policy, though, that is truly open door, that you cannot use things against people.
Oh, no.
So you have to be careful about how that goes.
I feel like I want to have you on for a whole another episode just to talk about that part of things. So I'm going to mark that for future reference, because as many of us, we are right now solopreneurs, and we do want to scale. And I myself want to use my business to help other single parents. That was one of my big pillars with making ends meet without having to get that second job outside of the home. Like, they can find a way to make this fit in their current lifestyle. So listeners, stay tuned. There will probably be a follow-up episode with those details. But as we get going, and before we really dive into the scaling your business with confidence and the tools that you utilize and work with, can you tell us a little bit more about how you approach planning for growth in different business stages? How do you identify those bottlenecks, guide your clients on setting those realistic goals and all of that?
So in our own business, the way that I find bottlenecks is, so I have a business partner, Megan. She's our COO. She started midway through 2023 with me. And we find bottlenecks really by tracking our time and seeing what we're doing. We only want to spend so many hours in our business a week. And that's because of outside obligations. She is a mother of 4. I am not a mother. It's not my past, but I have other family obligations that I take care of, aging parents, animals, things like that. So we track our time and we sit down and we say, these are the things that are in our seat, right? Like, I know that I'm the founder and CEO. This is my seat. These are the things I'm supposed to do. And I just pay attention to how much time I spend in those specific chunks in my seat. And Megan does the same. And as we grow, we start to look at, are we spending too much time in specific areas? And if we are, can we start to outsource that to somebody else on our team? Can we give somebody else that role on the team to take it out of our seat? Because we started off with just 10 hours a week for both of us and then doing client work on the side. And now we've grown. And when we get to about 30 hours per week for us, we start to chunk things off of our seat. So we work with our clients in the same way, where we start working with them. We say, what are you like spinning your wheels on? How are you spending all your time? Can you look at it? And can you say, hey, these are things that I don't need to be handling. Can I give it to a virtual assistant? Or can I give it to an online business manager? Or is there another role that needs to be fulfilled? Sometimes a virtual assistant isn't the role. Sometimes we say, you guys need a bookkeeper, or you need a CFO, or you need an SEO specialist, and it's not in our wheelhouse. But really looking at where you're spending your time, and do you want to be spending your time there? Is it your zone of genius? And are you spending more hours than you wanted to when you started this business? Ultimately, we all start businesses because we want freedom. And you don't have freedom to do anything if you're working 60 hours a week.
Exactly.
Say that again.
We've all been there.
Say that again. I still feel like every once in a while, my regular day-to-day with family obligations pulls me away. So I may not be working 60 hours, but it feels like it because I'm working so late into the evening to catch up for not working during the day. So
yeah,
what are some common, I want to say, like pitfalls or bottlenecks that you've noticed, like some consistent ones that when small businesses are working with you, what do they come across as they're trying to scale?
So delegation is always an issue. People are afraid to delegate. I'm the same way. The other day, I've had this thing on my task list for weeks. It's creating a field guide on hiring a virtual assistant, like helping our clients, whether we're the team for them or not. We are the team for them. I mean, I kind of think we're the best, but whatever, you know how to say that. But it's a resource that we want to be able to give to people. And I have the long form blog post that this information will come from. And it's just been sitting here, right? I've got it started in Canva. And it's a field guide and it's a little outside of my design comfort. Well, I have an assistant. And the other day I was talking to her and she was like, here's my priorities. And I was like, Cassie, I've got this one thing, like it's slowing me down because it's sitting in my brain and I need to get rid of it. And Cassie is great at design. I was like, can you just do this for me? And she's like, oh my gosh, I love these projects. I will totally do it for you. So I'm the bottleneck in this situation, right? I'm holding on to something because I think that I need to do it. When in reality, there are people on my team that are going to get so much more joy out of doing it. And if it's not joy that they're getting out of it, they're getting experience out of doing it. So like, I really feel like delegating to others is a gift. Like you're giving them something to do. You're letting them improve their skills. You're letting them find confidence. You're letting them lead. And then for me, it removes that mental burden that I'm holding. So usually the biggest bottleneck with clients is delegation. So we work with them. It's just part of the service that we offer. For the first 3 months, we know there's a really big learning curve. And usually the learning curve is delegation, taking things off of their seat and giving to somebody else and trusting that.
That is definitely something that people have a hard time with. I believe it's more so like letting go, because you as the business owner, you're so in it all the time to where you don't really think I can give this to somebody else to do, but you can give it to somebody else to do because you are there to focus on the bigger picture of your business. So why not delegate this tiny little task to somebody else? Like you said, like to take the mental load off.
Yeah. And even if it's a bigger task, I think one of the blocks of delegation is that it feels really heavy to have to teach someone something else. So there's easy ways to go about it. First, our team, we mentor them, we train them, we support them. So our clients are able to come to us and say, we need to implement ACH payments in our QuickBooks, and we need to get all of our clients on board to help our cash flow. Can you guys help? The answer is yes, we can. Let me get with your assistant. I will walk her through the process. I will show her how to do it. And then you integrate your particular client information, your particular process with her after we've taught her the foundation of what we're doing here. So that gives them a little bit more confidence to delegate, because it's scary to just say, hey, do this. And then you're thinking in your brain, it's going to take me hours to teach this person to do it. So we've removed some of that burden by helping to teach them how to do it. We also love Loom. I know you guys know Loom.
Yeah.
Yes.
We use it for all of our training processes. If I find that there's something that assistants are asking about again and again, we'll create a Loom training for that so that it's in our library. We keep a library. And then we tell clients, like, look, if you want your assistant to take over this process, just record yourself doing this process and talk through it. And then send that video to the assistant. And the assistant can watch that video, learn from you, and has that information there and can come back to you with questions later on. But they're going to be able to get a lot of the process out of just listening to you walk through it. Mm-hmm. So what you can teach somebody in 30 minutes is going to give you 10 hours back a week.
I have two things. So I have a funny client experience. I was like, please record your timeline creation process for couples. I know my process of doing it, but he was constantly critiquing it and it was taking longer to get it done. So it's like, okay, I need you to record your process from beginning to end, and that way I can learn it. But I only had audio. I guess he had it on a second screen or something, and he didn't properly share it. So like for 20 minutes, all I could do was listen, and then I saw none of his process. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have you do this again.
So, that's always a fear. When I do Loom videos, I'm like, God, I hope that I chose the right screen, because I have like multiple screens, because wouldn't it be awful if it just was 20 minutes of me talking? Oops.
Oh, it made me laugh so hard. And then the last one, which I had never thought about. So I also help write SOPs and things for my clients and build them out. So if we ever part ways, they're not left in the dark, and then I'm not doing it last minute. Someone had recommended, when you do Loom, I never paid attention, I guess, that you can take the transcription and then use that to build out the SOP. So you have the visual and the written out for different learning styles. And I was like, that is a complete game changer for me.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure we link that in the show notes.
I use that transcription for working with my virtual assistant. So I have my own assistant, Cassie. She does a lot of our marketing stuff. If I want to like write a blog or like talk through something, I do it on Loom, and then I take that transcript and send it to her. So she's then got like the outline and the things that I want to talk about. And she does that first draft and sends it back to me, because I'm better like getting it out spoken, and then we get a written version.
Ooh.
And then we edit.
That's interesting.
I love that. That is a great tip for even just saving time on writing a blog post. I love it.
We tell our clients the same thing, like talk it out, and we can use that audio transcription to help you craft the blog post. So
I'm going to remember that for myself, because that's usually my hardest part. Sarah's really great at writing. I am not. I have to talk it out. And I never thought about using that as a means of creating the blog post.
Yeah.
That probably just changed my whole everything.
Everybody has their own way of learning things. And if that's what works for you, that's what works for you. And if it doesn't work for somebody else, then see what else you can find that will help them better understand a certain task.
So what are some other tech tools that you use to streamline workflows and free up time for busy entrepreneurs and small business owners?
We use Asana. How do you guys say it?
Asana?
Asana.
I say Asana because I am a yoga teacher and that's how you say that word in yoga. So it's really hard for me to say it the other way.
Have we been saying it wrong this whole time?
No, I'm saying it wrong. It's me.
Okay.
So we love Asana. We love it for multiple reasons. You can build your standard operating procedures. You can build your templates. You can link documents to it. So it's an easy repository for everybody to get to what they need to get to. And you can communicate with your team on the project. So all of the communication is there. Whereas if you're in email, I might be talking to Megan about something and it's information Cassie needs, but I've forgotten to give Cassie that information. Whereas if you're talking about it in Asana, you can go back and read through and everybody has the same information. We use Google Workspace. We've always used Google Workspace. Before we made the move onto Asana, we used Google Workspace checklists. I love it. Creating a checklist. It's the way I came up in the legal field. I had a checklist for every process that we had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back in the day before we had project management software or access to it. I love the Google Task Pad. That's how I really stay on top of my recurring tasks, how to follow up with people. I also love just a handwritten notepad. I love a line sticky note. So we tell clients when we start working with them and they say, how do we do the task management? We talk about what works for them. So are you using a handwritten note every day? If you are, that's totally fine. Snap a picture of it and send it to your assistant. Or do you want to integrate something like Asana where you can have more communication? Sometimes we work with clients. We like to kind of just get started and see where they're at and then say, look, we can upgrade these things to this other system if you're comfortable with that. But they ultimately have to be comfortable with it because we don't want to give them one more thing to kind of burden them on their mental load. Right now for our CRM, we're using Copper. And I have to tell you, I don't love it. We've been in it for about a year almost. Something important to note, which we've learned the hard way in the last year, is if you use the yearly discount and pay for the whole year for most softwares, now you can't get out of them. So you are stuck with them for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest paying monthly for the first couple of months until you're sure whether or not you want that software, because your CRM is going to be expensive. There's just really no way around it. I ran pipelines through Asana for a long time for my CRM, and it just wasn't giving me a level of organization and cross-team communication that I needed as I built out my business development team. So we outgrew Asana and we are outgrowing Copper. Those are kind of our basics.
Attention service-based entrepreneurs, unleash the power of Pinterest with a professionally optimized business account. In case you're new here, my name is Dana, co-host of Entrepreneur Encounter, and I want to be your Pinterest setup specialist. Together, we will tailor your Pinterest presence to your brand and audience, optimize your profile with captivating visuals and descriptions, develop a strategic pinning plan to reach your target audience, and then integrate Pinterest with your other marketing channels so you can repurpose instead of working harder. Then, if you love your Pinterest account setup, I do have ongoing support packages for continued success. So if you've been wanting to unlock Pinterest potential for your wedding planning business, contact me at my website, ddvirtualmanagement.com, and we can get started.
So recently I asked my team to complete what we call our tech stack, right? And I just had them go into a spreadsheet and put in all the things that they work on and then rate themselves from beginner to advanced. And there's got to be probably 150 different programs that our team members work on, because we work with so many different clients, again, across different industries. And then we use that, we let them train each other. So the other day, somebody said, does anybody know Klaviyo? And I said, go into the tech stack, search it, see who knows it, and reach out to them. So we let our team members get together and train each other on how to use different software, which is a huge benefit to our clients, because then our clients are getting this knowledge base of 20 different people instead of just one solo freelancer.
I love that.
So if you guys ever have any questions on whether or not you should try a new program, reach out. We can probably find somebody who can tell you all the pros and cons.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely use Asana and Google as my two main ones. Super easy. I mean, I've been in Google forever, so It's funny when you try to do a different software like Microsoft Teams and like Word and whatnot. I know that I used that when I was in school. They're similar, but there's a lot of differences. I think Google Workspace to me is a lot user friendly, and so is Asana. It's super easy to communicate everything that you're working on with.
Yeah. And they're more affordable. I know Microsoft, especially if you're doing their cloud-based one, can be really expensive and you have to pay per seat, everybody that you have in there. I feel like Google is more accessible. It's more affordable. And Microsoft is one of those softwares that have been around for so long that if it messes up, they're like, sorry, we've been in your life for 45 years now. So try and get rid of us. It's almost like an abusive relationship with Microsoft sometimes.
It's so funny because I was helping my son do a project and his account with Microsoft. And I just wanted to say, can we just move to Google? But obviously he has his own account for school. So I'm trying to teach him how to use it, but I'm not loving it.
Changed so much. Like from the time that I left my corporate job, I came up against it again with a client was maybe like a year and a half. And I went into their cloud-based. I was like, what is this? Like, it's just so different from what I was using a year and a half before.
That's crazy.
One of the things I've been liking about Google Workspace, I tested it with a newer client, is the Google Chat. And normally I use Slack, and kind of what you're talking about before we started recording was you meet your clients where they are with their tech tools and things. You don't say, oh, you have to. I did more or less blindly say, hey, I communicate on Slack and that's the only way I communicate. You have to download it. But then that was a big bottleneck because they never got on. They didn't download the app. Like I still couldn't really get in touch with them. So if I had questions, I had to hope they happened to check their email on time. But everyone has a Google and most of them already have like Google Chat or Google everything on their phone. So testing it out with them, I was able to get answers so much faster. And I'm considering getting rid of Slack altogether and just moving everyone to Google because they all have a Gmail account. I already know. So
I do not like Slack. I don't know why I don't like it. It feels very overwhelming to me. I'm on like 5 different Slack channels with different networking groups. It doesn't feel organized. And it could just be me. It could just be that I'm not super comfortable with it. I also am a monotasker and I don't like something dinging me when I'm in the middle of a workflow. It just throws off my entire day. I don't multitask. I just don't believe that our brains work like that. So Slack feels like it ruins my monotasking. With our Google Chat, we use it for our team and we recently just organized our groups. So we have the team chat, but it was like somebody would ask a question about a software and then we'd be like, oh, hey guys, by the way, remember this policy? And it was getting really overwhelming. So we just broke it down into like, we have a water cooler chat where we like give shout outs to each other. And then we have a questions, like technical questions chat. And then we have an operations chat where we give them like business operation updates. And then we leave it at that. Like we're not getting any more granular into them, but we did need to kind of separate it out. So there's not 20 people sending pictures of their cats and then asking about vacation policies in the same thread.
yes, I feel that 100%.
So I love the chat feature.
Do you have any other tips for entrepreneurs juggling countless tasks or tech tools that you have been eyeballing about testing and you're really loving or anything like that?
Yes, we're going to change off a Copper or CRM. We're looking at the Monday CRM. I think that might be a good switch for us. And we're also looking at implementing a ticketing system, like a customer service help desk ticketing system. And we haven't been able to figure that one out. Maybe you guys can talk about it a little bit more. I know, Dana, you had said something about Zoho on our pre-chat. Mm-hmm. They have a ticketing system. And then Zendesk has a ticketing system. So we've been looking at those two, trying to figure out what's going to fit cost-wise. And also, am I going to overwhelm myself with another software? Because I don't want that overwhelm. So
I know Monday is fairly user-friendly. It kind of reminds me of Asana.
Yeah.
Monday does have a task. You can put your tasks in Asana as well. And then you can get this CRM template. You can put a CRM in Monday and have it go to your Gmail. So if you do get somebody emailing you, you can make it where it automates, it adds the task or says, hey, like this person emailed. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do with Monday, but I do know that it does cost a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And their CRM versus their project management. So they've got like different softwares. Their CRM is a little bit more expensive, and we have to pay, it's one of the ones that you pay per seat.
Mm-hmm.
So like looking at softwares, we'd like to look at how many seats are we going to get? And then what kind of accessibility are you going to get? We were talking about CRMs earlier before the call, but like HubSpot, we'll get clients that come to us and they say, oh, I'm on the basic version of HubSpot. I want to do all these things. And I get in and we say, okay, you can't do any of these things with the basic version of HubSpot. So you've just spent 6 months learning something that is never going to do what you need it to do. But you didn't know that because it's like such a deep process to get in and figure out what you need.
Right.
So like that research, it took me 2 years to even decide on the copper CRM. So a year into it, being disappointed with it, it's a little frustrating, but it's a small setback. At least I know what I'm looking for a little bit more, and so I find a new one.
Right.
We'll be fully transparent and genuine in this podcast with our audience. Like, we ran into some technical difficulties. We're rolling with it. I still feel like this was an amazing episode. And like, if you could hear me clicking, I was taking notes for myself to talk with my own team about. So huge thank you, Katie, for being willing to come on and sharing your wisdom with us. For our listeners that would love to follow along and learn more about your business, how can they find you? How can they connect with you? All of the things.
Yeah, we have a website, rivercity-va.com. Check us out there. I would say we're most active on LinkedIn, and we put a really big emphasis on being educational on LinkedIn. I don't want to gatekeep any of the information that we have. I want to share it with everybody. And then when people are ready to work with us, they're going to feel confident in knowing that we know what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So check us out on LinkedIn, River City Virtual Assistants. We have a business page. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I talk a lot about entrepreneurship, leadership, things like that. And we have a newsletter that you can subscribe to on LinkedIn. We run it through LinkedIn and we run it through Copper. We do both, but you can get all the same information with the LinkedIn newsletter, where we talk about things like delegation, boosting your productivity. And we've done a series recently on how your virtual assistant can help you with marketing and how we're incorporating AI into thought generation for our clients to help them find more things to write about. So that's always hard. So
I love it. I go back and forth with LinkedIn. So we have our podcast on LinkedIn as well. And I utilize a newsletter feature too, only because it was easier for me to do it than email marketing. I don't know why. I just refuse to do it, but I'll do it on LinkedIn. And so far, so good.
Yeah. You know what? That's what it's all about, right? Like finding what works for you and sticking with it.
Yeah.
Like, do not listen to all the overwhelm of you need to be on 16 different social channels and run 18 different newsletters and do all these different things. Like, find what works for you and just roll with it.
Yes.
Yes. 100% roll with it. That's going to be our tagline for this episode. So for more scaling tips and resources, please check out our show notes. We'll have all of Katie's links in there as well as our own. Until next time.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Remember, soft skills aren't just some fluffy buzzwords that get thrown around in the corporate world. They're the key to unlocking your full potential as a professional and a human being. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and seek out opportunities to improve your soft skills. Sarah and I have a variety of workshops, online courses, and complimentary clarity calls for you to practice in real time with us. Links are always in the show notes. And be sure to join us next time for more insights, tips, and tricks to help you succeed in your entrepreneur encounter.